Hi everyone, so I'm going to have to voice this video over. I recorded this on Saturday and we had some company and I just kind of turned the camera on while I was cooking and things, but it was just so loud I had to take the volume out. So I'll just narrate a little bit of what's going on here. So my sourdough jar was starting to produce a few bubbles. It's not super strong yet, but I decided it was good enough I could whip up a loaf of sourdough French bread. So that's me doing that, and I'm taking 1 cup of sourdough from my jar, and I'm just putting this in the bread machine and gonna let the bread machine do the stirring for me to make it a little bit easier. Now I'll need to add back to the jar because I took from the jar, and this will count as my feeding of the sourdough for the day. I'm going to add my 1/2 cup of warm water, and my 1 cup of King Arthur unbleached flour. Now I'm just stirring it up a little bit. Okay, so now back to adding to the bread machine. I'm going to put in 1 1/4 cups of warm water. Three-quarters of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to start by adding 3 cups of flour. The recipe calls for 3 1/2 cups, but we're going to see if it actually needs it. And I'm just showing you that I'm going to put the other 1/2 cup aside in case we need it as it gets mixing. This probably is not the safest thing to do. I do not recommend you do this, but I'm doing it anyways. I've got the cover open on the bread machine so I can see the dough stirring and see if it needs added liquid or added flour as it mixes. This really saves me a lot of work. I know I've mentioned this before, but these are not very expensive and they really save a lot of time. Even if you don't want to bake the bread in there, it's just so nice to be able to let it do the mixing for you. Okay, there it is, 3 cups, and I'm poking it with the spoon. It's not sticky, it's bouncing back. I never added the other half a cup. Okay, now on to a spaghetti sauce. This is just a very inexpensive, great tasting spaghetti sauce. Everybody loves it. It's a go-to when you have a crowd to feed. I've got 1 package of Hillshire Farm kielbasa, Polska kielbasa, and I just diced it up with scissors, put it in this pan on medium heat, and I'm going to brown it just a little bit. While I was browning this, I got a text message from my mother telling me that the tornadoes had happened in Kentucky. And that led me to worrying about my viewer Becky, because she lives in Kentucky and her family. And I couldn't get a hold of Becky, so I started to really panic. And then I got a hold of her daughter, who said that they were perfectly fine, praise the Lord, that the tornadoes had hit within 30 minutes of them, but had not hit them. And then partway through me cooking this, Becky called me, and I took the call and forgot to shut it off and left the room. And so, praise the Lord, it was a little extra browned, but it was not burned, and I was just so relieved to hear from her. But the damage is very bad, and Kentucky is in trouble. So please, everybody, be praying for the people in Kentucky that have had the storm come right to them and destroyed their homes and vehicles and jobs and everything. Even nursing homes and stuff had been hit. So remember them in your prayers. And once again, we just thank the Lord that my viewer Becky and her family were completely unharmed. Their property's fine. There was nothing but just a bad storm that didn't create any serious damage in their area. Okay, here I am. I have added an onion. And now I'm adding a colored pepper, but any kind of pepper, green pepper, colored pepper, whatever. And I don't know if you noticed how I cut that pepper, but I cut it upside down. I saw that recently on TikTok, and that keeps the mess from the seeds. And this is the first time I tried it, and it worked out wonderful, so give that a try. Okay, now I'm adding one of these big cans of tomato sauce. I always use this brand. It is worth the extra money. It is the largest can. I didn't think to get the ounces, but the largest can, and I use 2 of them. Now I'm going to add just a little garlic powder. Normally I would use some fresh garlic, but I didn't have any, so just a little bit of that. And that's it. You're probably thinking, well, this doesn't look like much of a sauce. This has the best flavor. Just that kielbasa alone. Oh yes, 1 pinch of sugar. Just that kielbasa alone just gives it the best flavor. And then I'm just going to let that simmer for a bit. I turn the stove down to 2 once it comes to a boil, put the cover on, and let it simmer. Okay, now we're on to the bread. Add the oil to that. I should mention that bread went into the machine on just dough setting only. And so it's done mixing and rising. And it's not going to have a real big rise because the sourdough jar wasn't quite ready, but it'll still be good hot bread, and nobody will mind if it's not quite as puffy as normal. And at this point, everybody's hungry and they're rushing me, and I'm just very quickly patting this out and gonna get it rolled up as fast as I can. And I really should have let it rise one more time after I got it out into its shape before it went into the oven. But once again, I had a house of guys that were, I'm hungry, I'm gonna starve. So I'm like, whatever, we're just gonna pop it in the oven. Put a few slits in it. And in the oven it goes. Now my son Jacob decides everybody's going to starve while that bread is in the oven. So he comes out and takes our cutting board and starts layering it up with different deli cheeses. We had Gouda and smoked Gouda and Swiss and cracked black pepper, cheddar cheese, pepperoni, a couple different kinds of Triscuits. This is our friend Zach, and Sloopy loves him. They have a blast playing together. This is basically what goes on through most of the visit, is him teasing her and her fighting him. Okay, I made angel hair, and here's the bread when it's done. It tasted wonderful, and here